But thanks for coming in on this.
You're very welcome.
When did you retire from us? And by the way, you were the undersheriff in Douglas County for how long?
Well, I came to Douglas County in July of 2020,
And
and I became the undersheriff in that fall, and then I left in July of 2025. So about 5 years.
Good 5 years.
Roughly 5 years.
And that was your first gig in law enforcement.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a
Spurlock,
start at the top.
Spurlock brought me in as a chief and then undersheriff real quick. And yeah, I had to learn. There's a lot to learn.
First of all, we're talking to Sheriff David Walcher for those who are just listening in right now.
Well, it's funny you said the word sheriff. Why would we say that?
Well, I said, because I know him. I first met him as sheriff. You probably did
Well, we
too,
go
Sheriff.
back a ways.
We
George.
do. And every time I bring up how I ran into you, you're like, I can't believe you brought up the C case or whatever that is.
What?
Yeah. Maybe
So
we might get there. I don't know.
Yeah, let's start in the Wayback Machine. You're a Colorado kid.
I am born in Colorado Springs,
Yeah.
and grew up in Grand Junction and then Arvada.
How long was your family in Colorado before that? Are you the first generation born here?
Yes, my dad was born in Kansas and my mom in Iowa, and my mom came out here when she was about 1.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
What
long time.
brought your dad out?
His father was a superintendent of schools and ultimately was a honey producer. And at one time, I think my grandfather, my dad's dad, was the biggest honey producer on the western slope of Colorado.
Whoa.
Yeah, and then my dad went to Boulder High School, mom went to Longmont High School, and they met way back when. And we're married 60 years before my dad passed away. And then
hey, that is tremendous.
Great childhood, great family, great parents.
Brothers, sisters that you know of?
2. Why do I put up with you?
No one knows.
Two family was mom and dad, 2 brothers, and sister.
Great.
Lost a brother, one of my brothers, a long time ago.
Sorry.
Yeah. So.
And where do you fit in that scheme of four?
Youngest.
You are the youngest.
I had it the worst of all 4 kids.
Actually, I think you probably had it the best. I'm going off on my 4th Graham.
Okay.
He has way more privileges and way more because the
I had
parents.
no privileges.
Yeah.
Okay, because the parents at some point are just like,
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah,
It's
just
ridiculous.
keep breathing. You know, that kind of
I
thing.
was a pretty good kid.
Yeah,
I
I'll
wasn't perfect, but
Well,
I was pretty good.
and George and I were looking at your resume. 21 years old, you were working for the FBI. 21.
Where was high school?
Arvada
You
Arvada
were-
Redskins.
That was back when they were
Oh,
Redskins.
That's
but
right.
They
And
changed the name now.
Then they became
Reds.
Reds, and now they're like
Warriors.
chartreuse.
I can't
something.
keep track, but I'm an Arvada
Yeah.
Redskin.
Right
Yes.
on. You're a Jeffco kid. I was a Jeffco
Yeah.
kid. Bear Creek Bears.
Right.
Go Bears.
I
Yeah.
knew that.
But-
So Arvada High School, yes.
And then
Oh, wow.
you joined the Merchant Marines right out of high school. What happened right out of high school?
Modeling career.
Started going to school up in Boulder at CU.
Okay,
So
go
in my
Bucks, yeah.
family, my dad, both brothers, and myself all have at least 1 degree from CU. And then
Quality family.
And then my sister, my mom, everybody's bachelor's degree is either in accounting, finance, or civil engineering.
What was yours?
It's just accounting, actually.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh, this explains the FBI trip.
Right.
Did you know that
I
you wanted to do the FBI when you did the accounting thing?
Yes. So when I was
I'm not sure how that
my
relates.
dad's best friend, a guy named Frank Adicamo, who Frank died at the age of 94 about 3 or 4 years
Wow.
ago. But Frank was an FBI agent as my dad's best friend. And I was fascinated with the FBI. And when I was 14, I wrote a letter to the FBI saying, how do you become an FBI agent?
P.S. I think my parents may be commies.
Yeah,
Did you-
perhaps. I threw it. So get me into counterterrorism and stuff like that. So I wrote that letter, and
Yeah.
they actually responded to it. And so
Wow.
I did start going to get an accounting degree. And then I thought, I'm going to try to get my foot in at the door. So I started with the Bureau when I was 21 as a civilian, and worked there while I was going to school at night.
Mhm.
What does a civilian in the FBI do at your age, 21?
Well, I had several different jobs. Some were involving confidential expenditures and a job called investigative assistant that I did. But
That's
I
long ago gone. What's the most
Long
secret
ago.
expenditure that you had to?
I can't tell you, George. No, I reported actually to the assistant special agent in charge, and I'd write checks to agents for confidential expenditures and stuff, and did backgrounds on applicants and things like that. And I'm a kid.
Yeah.
But I'm going to school, but at some point, I realized because of the transfer policy at the time, I would be Denver was so high on the officer preference list, it would have taken me forever to get back to Denver the way that system was at the
Yeah,
time.
they tended to start you somewhere not where you in
Well,
processed
and
or
what
whatever.
I'd heard at the time, they don't like you to bring back where you grew up because they were afraid of potential corruption and things like
Oh,
that.
okay.
So I just decided, born and raised in Colorado, didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
So one of the employees at the bureau that I worked with, her husband was a sergeant out in Jefferson County.
I've heard of it.
And went out and did a ride along and applied at Jefferson County. It's the only
Wow.
place I applied and started there in my latter half of my 20s. But I spent 6 or 7 years with the bureau, going to school, and it was great. I still stay in touch with people I worked with.
Wow,
in the 80s.
that's pretty
So
good.
it's great.
So
then
what-
I started out at Jeffco.
What year did you start out in Jeffco?
1988, February of 88.
And that would have been the year I graduated high school.
Okay, there
So-
you go.
So we were there
I
at the
got-
same time.
Maybe I chased you.
Or my friends,
Yeah.
most likely my friends.
Yeah.
No one ever suspected me.
But had a great, a great career out there.
Wait, who
And
was the sheriff? Back
Harold
then?
Bray.
Bray, and then was
Yep.
it
Harold Bray.
Beckham after that?
Beckham after
Yeah.
that. And then John Stone.
Oh yeah,
And then
that was short.
Russ Cook. And then
Who was the short-lived one that was there for like 10 seconds and then
Russ Cook.
Russ Cook? That's what
Yeah,
I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was Ted Mink,
Ted,
obviously.
the
And then
legend.
those are the 5 sheriffs I worked for in Jeffco.
Yeah.
And then obviously
Schrader was after that,
Schrader was after that.
and they haven't had a sheriff since. No, I'm
We'd have to
kidding.
talk about that.
I'm kidding.
Talk
It's
about
Reggie. Well, so you got into the law enforcement thing. Did you choose to live in Jefferson County where you were enforcing the law, or did you guys live somewhere else?
Actually, we lived somewhere else. We moved out southeast because at the time when I started at Jeffco, I get married and when you're going home at 2:00 in the morning, who cares about traffic and stuff?
Good point.
And
Good point.
my wife was working a lot southeast, so we bought southeast and in Arapahoe County.
Yeah.
Aurora, Arapahoe County, and just have stayed there, same house, 32 years. Actually.
Wow.
Um,
What's that address? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
I'm looking for a house next door to you. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. there you go.
So I can keep an eye on you.
Yes, please. I'll need it.
Yeah.
But this sort of brings us through. You worked your way through the ranks pretty well.
I did. So at Jefferson County, I was a deputy, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and division chief.
What were you when we met?
What year did you start out there?
I started in '94, but you and I, at least on the thing where I know for sure we met, was what were you with that?
I was a sergeant in '94, and then I got promoted to lieutenant in '98, I think.
So I think
Yeah.
you must have been a
Lieutenant could have been.
when we were out at that place.
Right.
And then did you do a stint in each of the different sections in the sheriff's office? Like, were you in the jail, and then were you on the road, and then detective stuff?
I did stints everywhere, and was very fortunate too. I was on the SWAT team for 7 years, and I ran academies. So when Beckham became the sheriff, I worked in patrol. I started in patrol, but in the jail, the deputies at the time, most of them were not post-certified state peace officers.
Okay.
So Beckham comes in as the sheriff, and he decides he wants everybody state certified. So I'm pulled out of patrol to start running academies. And I ran, I think, 3 of them, and I think somebody else ran 1 or 2 after I did.
What years
to
was
the
that?
state? It was, well, Beckham, that would have been about 92, so it was right after that, somewhere right in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so ran academies, and then I did. I didn't go to the jail. It's funny you mentioned the jail. A lot of places now will
That's where they
kind
start you.
or they mandate you
Yeah.
to go there, but at the time that wasn't the case. So the first time I ever worked in the jail, I visited booking a lot when I'd bring people
Yeah.
in, but the first time I ever worked in the jail, I was a sergeant, and Beckham decided that he wanted his sergeants to be able to work everywhere. So there was kind of this rotation of people to be transferred to jail. So I found out I'm going to be working in the jail at one point. I'm like, wow, what just happened? Never even been in the jail almost. And, but it was a great stint. So I was a sergeant up there for a while, and then later I was a division chief for the detention division. It's a big jail. I mean, at the time, 1,000, 1,200 inmates at the time. I mean, it's a bigger jail than, like, for instance, Douglas County.
Yeah.
But as far as inmate population. But
What's
that
the
was a
inmate
great
population?
experience.
What's their capacity out there?
Since they built the new minimum security 768
yeah.
bed spot, and depending on double bunking and things, it's 12 to 1500
That's
would be a
considerably
capacity.
larger. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
bigger. I could have taught at one of the academies that you ran because I first started teaching about mid-90s for the Jeffco Academy and then ultimately for Red Rocks. But Jeffco doing the ridiculous traffic code
Right.
with an overhead projector.
You could have.
Yeah.
You could have.
But I don't remember that. What I do remember is coming down to a high school in South Jeffco that was just south of the one I graduated from, in the parking lot on, it was either April 20th or April 21st, 1999, and that was Columbine, and you were down there running the show as far as I could tell, because I remember standing behind, I think I was behind Mark Potler, and you were doing something, and I can't remember what it was, but I think you were sitting on a couch inside of a command center.
Not exactly.
Something like that.
So it was Tuesday. That was Tuesday, April 20th,
Okay.
1999. Yeah. So I was a 9-month lieutenant then, the junior lieutenant in the whole organization, and when that started, I was at headquarters, but I literally got in a car and heard the radio traffic, and when I wound up being the incident commander for the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office for the Columbine High School shootings.
What had been your assignment leading up to that? You said you were
I was a patrol lieutenant.
Just patrol.
Yeah, and I was responsible at the time. We did things geographically, so I was responsible for what we refer to as the North Precinct, which was in essence Hampton North.
Yeah.
And then kind of that included like Genesee and Lookout Mountain and all the way up to 120th.
But didn't include Columbine.
No. So I went down to Columbine from headquarters, and I was there very quickly. And I wound up being the incident commander down there.
So you were speaking to the media too, weren't you?
No.
Who was doing that?
Steve Davis.
That's right.
Was the main guy.
Another
Of course,
legend,
John Stone was the sheriff.
Right.
He had only been the sheriff for
a
cup of
months,
coffee. Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was Steve Davis that you're talking about.
So is that one of the cases you remember the most? Obviously, Columbine is huge.
Yes, I mean, obviously I remember that very, very well. There's other cases that I remember very well also. That was obviously the biggest event that.
What were some of the other ones that you remember that you stick in your mind now?
One that really, and I don't know, George, if you might have had anything to do with this, but there was a guy that had killed 3 women in South Jefferson County off of Sims and William Cody Neal.
Yep,
yes,
that's right.
And I was an investigative sergeant at the time, and I went over there, and I was kind of responsible for that day, and ultimately the SWAT team took him into custody that night. We didn't even know who the guy was when we first found the bodies in this townhome down there, but that one really.
That's the Potler one, though. Remember that?
It is Mark Palmer.
Yeah, that's right. This actually made case law.
What year was that?
I was a sergeant, so I would say 90,
Yeah.
95,
Yeah,
96. I was an
young,
investigation sergeant at the time.
But
yeah,
what had happened was they recovered these bodies. Pretty vicious stuff. The guy had murdered these women.
Not pretty vicious.
Yeah.
Really vicious.
Yeah. And yes, that's what I mean. He had used a maul to maul these women. Lot of gory head injuries and stuff. But he's in the wind a bit, and at some point, you guys somehow figure out how to get this dude on the phone. Mm-hmm. He says,
I want to talk to an attorney.
Yeah, but he's like, I think I'm going to be killed if I turn myself in. And I want to have an attorney, to be there for this. And of course, I don't know how much you guys ever discussed saying, let's bring in a real public defender to talk to this guy, because that would have been crazy. And so instead, Mark Potler walks over and says, I'll do it. I'll pretend to be a public defender for purposes of getting this guy to turn himself in. And so he becomes Mark Palmer. And I think this dude only asked for 3 things. I think he said, 1, I want you to be there when I'm arrested so I can make sure these guys don't kill me. 2, I want a cell phone in my cell or something, or so I can call my brother, something like that, and I want cigarettes. And I think Potler had said, hey, I'll try to work on those things for you, or whatever. But nonetheless, this triple axe murderer, I mean, the literal triple axe murderer, turns himself in. He doesn't go into the wind and kill another person, which I think he probably would have.
I think he was threatening to do that.
That's right.
I believe.
And then they go to court, and the public defender at the time goes to talk to this guy or something, or the court's going to appoint a public defender, and he goes, well, I already have a public defender. I have Mark Palmer. And the other PDs are like, WTF? Like, we don't have a Mark Palmer. And it figures out that it was Mark. They grieve him, which means they complain against him for an ethical violation that goes to the Supreme Court. And he defends on what I think the rest of the planet Earth would see as the very reasonable grounds of, this was a freaking emergency, right? Like, this dude's out killing women. He's going to kill again.
And he's threatening to kill
And he's
him.
threatening to do it. And by the way, nothing happened that prejudiced this guy's, they didn't get a confession out of him because of this. They didn't trick him into it. It just got him to turn himself in. And do you know that that Supreme Court unanimously found that, nope, there are no exceptions. As a lawyer, you can never, ever, never, never misrepresent yourself to an unrepresented person, even if they're a triple axe murderer in the wind threatening to kill again. And that's when I realized.
So what happened to the guy?
Oh, he got
that's what's amazing, because ultimately he got the death penalty.
But this is also another case that grew out of this.
Supreme Court out of Arizona, Ring versus Arizona.
Yeah, God, you have a great memory. It is Ring.
Said the 3-judge panel that Colorado did at the time was not constitutional. Right. Those are my words.
No, you're right.
So he went back to getting 2 million years in jail from the death penalty because of the Ring versus Arizona case out of the Supreme Court.
And there were a bunch of cases during that period of time. And by the way, that 3-judge panel thing was not just simply made up out of whole cloth. There had been other case law from other areas that said, nope, that's good. You can do the 3-judge panel. Mm-hmm. And a bunch of those cases got overturned on appeal, and that was one of them. Two big cases that grew out of
huge.
That. Yeah, that was a huge case, man.
That one really stands out,
Sure,
and just some of the circumstances and some of the things that happened. But fortunately, because of a lot of good work with a lot of good people, we got him into custody that night.
Oh yeah,
and literally showing up at a place at, I'm making it up, noon, not knowing anything, and sometime late into the hours that night he's in custody.
I just don't know even how you guys even got him on the phone.
But that's a long story.
That was a miracle. That was a miracle to get him on the phone. It was crazy.
So that one, amazing, and that one, throughout my career, so much good work by a lot of people out there that I've worked with. I've been fortunate to work with, and that was a case where, wow.
Who was the worst? No, I'm kidding. I'm not asking you that. I mean,
George Brocco.
Who attained the rank of lieutenant that shouldn't have?
Yeah.
Let's not go there.
So, Sheriff, when did you leave Jeffco and go to Arapahoe?
Yeah, and why?
What year was that?
2000. I left Jeffco in December of 2009.
Okay. Yeah, that's when I first met you. Yeah. John Shires was the PIO.
Jimmy Shires.
Jim Shires. Sorry.
Yeah. So great career at Jeffco. Worked with so many good people. 5 sheriffs, all different. That's kind of funny in and of itself. But,
I'm just thinking. I'm only laughing because of Ted Mink. Because that dude was.
And I saw him last week.
Still bald?
Huh?
Still bald?
Yes.
Still rocking the ball.
Yeah.
Good dude.
But Grayson Robinson, who was then the sheriff at Arapahoe County, had reached out to me and said, hey, what would you think about coming out to Arapahoe as part of my command staff? And he was term limited in being a sheriff. And I think as part of his succession plan, he recruited me. And it's odd. It's funny. People had asked me, did he ever interview you? Like to be a chief or an undersheriff or something. And I said, it's funny. No, he didn't. He never interviewed me. But I used to be an assessor for the Commission on Accreditation for law enforcement agencies. And I'd go out, Arapahoe County would ask me to come out to look at their files prior to their on-sites for CLIA assessments for accreditation. And so I didn't know him very well, but he certainly knew of me, and he knew me because of this accreditation stuff. So Grayson was a guy that he paid attention. And if you don't think he wasn't watching everybody at every moment, you're wrong. I mean, he paid attention. And then I think at some point he reached out to then my sheriff at the time, Ted Mink, and, they chatted about me or whatever. But ultimately in December of 2009, went out to Arapahoe County as one of the 2 chiefs or 3 chiefs, and then was undersheriff. In about 4 or 5 months,
Yeah.
I became his undersheriff.
He was a really great lawman, really good hair,
Yeah,
as you remember.
I knew
Very
him
good
well.
hair.
Perfect.
Perfect, perfect hair. That's a way to put it. But then when
Smart guy.
this is another time that we ended up running into each other too, was the Friday the 13th, December the 13th, 2013, out at Arapahoe High School. You remember that? It was freaking cold, and I remember standing in that. Was that a Burger King across the way?
Yes.
Was that a Burger King?
Yes.
And man, it's weird now that I think about it. Our major contacts leading up to me becoming the DA and shortly after were all involving horrible stuff that happened at schools.
Yeah.
Man, that was crazy.
Yeah.
That was a rough case too. That
Yeah.
was Claire.
I was there that whole day too.
That's the one at Arapahoe County that absolutely sticks out the best or the worst in my mind is that day.
Well, why? I mean, we all know why. It was a horrible situation. But how did you feel about the way it was handled and everything else?
Well, I'll just tell you that the response, and there again, if you go way back to a Columbine or before, we didn't have Columbines back in the day. I mean, that was the first one of that type that has ever been. And I'll tell you, since then, to law enforcement's credit, we have better trained cops. And I'll just say this, and for instance, Douglas County, because I just came from here, we have better trained cops by far than ever before, and they have better equipment. I mean, it's phenomenal how good they are. It is amazing, and I credit, in this case, Douglas County. I mean, I spent 5 years down here, and I know that, but the response at the Arapahoe High School shooting was, although the whole thing was tragic, the response could not have been more amazing.
And a direct result of lessons learned from Columbine and other things. I mean, it was
between the SRO that was assigned there, their security staff, their employees. Yeah. A maintenance guy at Arapahoe High School saved a lot of lives that day. And phenomenal response. In fact, the Littleton School District hired a firm there's not with the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office. We did our job very well, but the school district hired a firm to look at the response of the school and the SO after the fact. And the gentleman that did that had reviewed many school shootings or mass shootings and things like that. And he said, and I still have the document where he says in there that it's the best response to something of this nature that he has ever seen in his career. And we could talk about that for an hour.
Didn't you generate a report? Weren't you in charge of doing some kind of a review or something? Or maybe someone else below you. But I remember at one point, this is going back years, I had a copy of that report. And I remember going through it thinking, this thing could have gone so much worse.
Absolutely. And it was horrible. And the family of the young lady that died there, I got to know them very well. And but the response was incredible. And
and Claire was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, right, George? He wasn't.
That's right. It was just she was
you
not
know
his target.
There's another. You say wrong place, wrong time. I would say she was in the right place at the wrong time. She was in school. Great. Nice young lady.
Very true.
But great family.
But in no way would I want to cheapen the horror for the family and what happened to her. But the response to the shooting of Claire is what ultimately saved other lives. Like, had Claire not been there and had not been the victim of that guy who let himself in through that unsecured side door of the school, if she had not been there, nobody knows.
I could have gone to the library or something.
He probably gets into that library without being detected, or without.
That's right.
Without somebody because a person in the library heard a shot or gunshots out in the hallway. Right. And if he hadn't done that, then probably that changes what happens in the library and potentially what happens in rooms that he had identified.
Well, then identified. I remember, can't remember if you were with me, but for sure Steve Johnson, back when he was with CBI, was there. And when we were going through the library, pulled
on
up
his
that-
arm.
on his arm, and
right.
he had written down all those
Room
classrooms.
numbers.
Yeah, those room
Yes.
numbers that he weren't like.
Targets.
Yes.
Target rooms.
Targets. Yes. I mean, yeah, horrible,
Yeah.
horrible.
Ugh.
Anything else stick out in your mind as your time out there? I figured you were going to be sheriff for the rest of my time as DA and maybe even beyond. But you and I both were on the ballot at a time when I think it became apparent that Colorado in general, but Arapahoe,
Mhm.
had just changed.
Right.
And it had changed pretty significantly. And honestly, Arapahoe's ballot loss was our gain down here. I didn't lose you out of the jurisdiction
Mhm.
because you were up there.
Yeah.
I just got you to another part of the jurisdiction where I live, so I
Yeah.
felt
You
very
were
happy.
Department of Safety of Denver, right? Didn't you?
That was after Arapahoe.
That's what I
Yeah.
meant, after.
Well, I knew, obviously, just Jefferson County now, Arvada. I mean, Adams County's always been Democrat, although they've
Yep.
had Republican sheriffs up there. But
They did.
They did.
Yeah.
But I knew a year before that election that I was going to lose. I just knew it. I just knew it. So
Wish you had told me that
because
before
that-
I donated that money, but
You want it back now?
I spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
no, not at all.
But just it's changed a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
and if you look at Douglas County's changed.
It's changing
That's
for
right.
sure.
That's
Highlands
right.
Ranch is becoming Jeffco, and you were
Yeah.
in Jeffco when I was. You couldn't find an elected Democrat. The first one I recall is really Dave Thomas,
Yeah.
who hired me, who was the DA. Now you can't find a Republican, and Arapahoe used to be the strongest Republican county in the metro area, if not the state.
Yeah.
You can't find an elected
I
Republican.
think they
there.
have one commissioner out of 5.
Yeah.
That's right, out on the Eastern Plains.
That's right.
Yeah,
So one commissioner out of 5, I think, is Republican.
that's right. And it was never like
Wow.
that. I mean, it just a
Yeah,
lot
it's
of
just
changes.
changed. It just changed, and that's that's how life is, I suppose.
So why did you come down here?
After I left Arapahoe County, which would have been in January of 2019, I believe. Yes. I did some stuff on the side, and then I got a phone call from a high-ranking Denver PD person I knew and a high-ranking Denver sheriff person I knew that said, "Hey, the manager of safety down here is creating this new position as a director for the manager of safety, doing some stuff." And I thought about that, and I thought, that might be interesting. Denver, that's a different world.
Yep.
Obviously, and so I applied for this job, and the manager of safety at the time hired me to be this director.
Who
and,
was it? Who was the manager?
Troy Riggs.
Okay.
Yeah, so he hired me as that, and then ultimately there was a new manager of safety, and just Denver. I have so much respect for a lot of people down there. I've worked well my whole career with members of the Denver Police Department, and but boy, it was just a different environment for me, politically and otherwise. So I was thinking about. I was there about 15 or 16 months, and literally I'm just thinking about, okay, maybe I'll just retire, and then Spurlock calls me
Mm-hmm.
and said, "Hey, why don't you come down and chat?" So he had a chief that was retiring, and what would you think about that? So I came down to Douglas County as a chief, one of the 3 chiefs we had, and
Who was retiring? Which chief?
Robert.
Oh yeah.
Robert.
Yep.
So, so I came down here and then became the undersheriff, a few months later, and then Sheriff Weekly. A lot of people were asking if I was going to run down here. Of course, I don't live in Douglas County,
Right.
And I considered maybe doing something, but I thought, no, I've had enough of the voting stuff, and so I was kind of done with that. And but Darren Weekly had approached me and said, "Hey, are you going to run?" And I said, I'll tell you Monday or whatever it was. But
No, he did. Yeah. Sheriff, we can talk about that at your retirement ceremony.
yeah, I told him, I said no, and he says, "I'm going to do it." I said, "Good, I'll support you, and if I can help you, I will." And he made, even when he announced his announcement, he said that Dave Walcher is the undersheriff, and he's going to be my undersheriff as long as he wants. And so so my last sheriff, Darren Weekly, worked for him for since he got sworn into office, and there, it reaches a point in time where it's time to retire, maybe do something else. And stuff for me,
How did you know?
40
Yeah.
plus years. Well, just I always thought I believe that I contribute a lot, and again, it's because of great people around me that did great work. I just maybe I have ideas. I do some things well, but there's a lot of smart people out there, and it just worked out that I just thought, you know what, I let somebody else do this, and now that Sheriff Weekly is in his role, and boy, he kind of understood now what he thinks he has to do. I mean, I told him, I said, you're the 8th sheriff I've worked for. I kind of know this business, and I've been one, and so I hope I helped him a little bit along the way. And so I thought, you know what, let's let him go on and do his thing, and the organization's going to change some, and that's fine. So it was just, you just feel it.
What was it? I should have asked you this earlier, but what was it about law enforcement that made you want to make a career out of it? I mean, George kind of fell into being,
Couldn't get hired anywhere else.
The FBI thing.
I know, but did you know? I mean, you were studying accounting. How did that lead to a career?
Well, accounting's a way into the
Well,
FBI.
Well, I know, but
at the time with the bureau, my dad's friend that became an agent, it just being an FBI agent for some reason when I was a teenager just was like, wow,
cool. Yeah.
But then realize, okay, now I understand a little bit better. I've worked for him. I understand it. But then I thought, at the local level, and I'll be honest with you, Tom, here's what's amazing and I've told Sheriff Weekly this before too, but being a sheriff, you can actually have an impact on people's lives. You can. I'd get phone calls. I have a problem. Okay, and my cell phone was always on my business cards. Sheriff, Undersheriff, whatever. And somebody called me, and I'd always, when I hand somebody my business card, I'd always say, if you're calling me at 2 a.m., you better be calling 911 first. Don't call me at 2 a.m. But I get phone calls that people have problems. They have issues and things. Somebody has to intervene and try to make a difference in somebody's life. Well, when you're the sheriff, as an example, when you're the sheriff and somebody calls you and said, I have a problem with X, you know what? That's something that you shouldn't have that problem. We can get involved in that. You know what? We're going to fix it. It's in government. Think about that. They can actually talk to somebody who can actually help them solve a problem or help them. Right. If you try to call somebody with the other levels of government or something, do you think you can talk to somebody? Do you think they can really intervene and make a difference? I can make a phone call. Yeah, let me call you back in an hour.
Yeah.
I can make a phone call and start something to occur that actually can help somebody's life. And that's what being a sheriff's all about. I mean, that's what's cool about it. You can actually make a difference in people's lives.
Some sheriffs aren't returning phone calls, but you were one of the ones that always did.
Well,
this is great.
Yeah.
Your talk about, hey, I hope I did some things, and I appreciate the humility. It was perfect that you were in the position you were in down here when Darren got elected, and Darren has grown into being an awesome sheriff. Mm-hmm. I mean, great for this jurisdiction. But the transition from I am inside a department, leading a department, and you lived this, and then becoming the person where there's no one else to look to and people go, what the hell did you do? What happened here? Mm-hmm. That's a little abrupt once you get elected and put in that position. And having someone with the experience that you have to be able to be there, and please forgive this reference, and Gandalf him through this this sort of transition is huge. And so for you to get to the point where you're like, I'm ready to move on, and then they transition to Jason, and it just feels like we didn't miss a beat.
It was smooth,
right? And I think for the staff, seeing that stability, that institutional knowledge carry on and stuff like that, I just think it was right place, right time for us at all. Yeah. But I want to know, if you had not done the FBI or whatever, did you have other thoughts at any point? Like, when I grow up, I want to be a blank.
Well, he's a classic car enthusiast. I was reading your bio. Would you be working on like a 64 Mustang or something?
I don't do Fords.
Are you restoring cars? Like muscle cars?
No, I like cars. Though.
What are you driving? What's your favorite right now?
Well, I'm driving today is a pickup, but
okay. Is it a classic pickup or is it just a?
But
oh, look at this!
You don't know what that is, do you?
Let's see.
I don't know, but in another world, it looks like maybe.
That was like Starsky and Hutch's.
Actually, it looks like the Hazards, the Dukes of Hazards, were in there.
Closer, yes. That's a 1970 Dodge Charger RT.
Oh, okay.
Dang.
So that's.
I was gonna say Dodge Challenger, but that was
How long have you had that?
Well, remember I told you I had a brother that died a long time ago.
Yeah.
My oldest brother bought that car brand new in
Whoa.
1970.
Wow.
He passed away, and then I bought it from his widow when I was 21 or something.
Oh my gosh, you've owned that thing for 60 years?
Well,
Look at
no,
how
not.
I'm kidding. Totally kidding.
So, but I had to sell to my dad a couple times in the 80s because I needed money. But but anyway,
it's like a pawn shop. Your dad was a pawn shop. Here, you hang on to this car. You give me a little bit of
grief. I like cars. I went to the Barrett Jackson auto auction in January in Scottsdale. Had a great time.
Oh, that's
Did you come away with anything?
Cool. No, but
Did you bid on
I'm
something?
gonna go again. No, but I kind of understand how they do it now, and I had a cousin that sold a bunch of his cars down there, and
you can get a good deal, or
well, we'll see.
also, you have recently learned to ride a bicycle. Tell us about that. Your experience with bicycles.
Well, I haven't crashed one lately. I do ride a little bit. Yes.
Yeah, talk about it.
You want to go for a ride one of these days?
I do. I'm just.
And you'll probably have to have an
you're gonna
electric
leave
bike.
me in the
You'll probably have to have an electric bike.
The sheriff doing like 40-mile bike ride.
No, if it's electric, it's only because I want the seat to vibrate on the long rides.
Okay.
That's
how you are. That's how you are.
That's how you keep it all together. How long have you been doing the bike thing? What's like the biggest bike? Have you done like a bunch of hundreds?
No. I just do it. It's one of those things that. I'm more of a fair weather guy, but I've got a nice bike in the basement. But it's one of those deals that I can get out of my bike and just not think about anything else.
It's one of the great things about Colorado.
Do you worry about biking on the roads? Do you always pick a path?
I do not. I will cross Parker Road to get into Cherry Creek, but after that, you don't have to cross the street, which is great.
You're staying on that Cherry Creek Trail.
So or other things where you don't have
there's tons of trails.
I don't like, if I have to get on a road, I try to get off as soon as I can because bad things happen.
If you look back on your career, is there a case, whether it was how it resulted in the courtroom, and I'm not talking about the ring thing, but where it got unsolved, where you just have a little bit of regret, like I want that one back, or I wish I had been able to accomplish this on it. Anything like that stick around in your head?
No.
That's good.
No.
What's wrong with you? No, I'm kidding.
Well, Sheriff, one of the things that we talked about on the phone, and I want to ask you about, is Governor Polis pardoned this guy, Brandon Kreutzer, recently.
Oh, boy.
Would-be cop killer. He rehabbed himself. He was teaching CrossFit, and now he's walking. How do you feel about that?
I'm outraged, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And I've actually, if you want to talk a little bit about that, I'd be happy to.
Well, we are. We're doing that right now.
I had a family member send me maybe the same day that you guys did your press conference, and send me that. I had not heard about it up to that point.
Because he buried it behind the Tina Peters thing.
I know.
It was supposed to just slip under the radar.
Of course he did.
Yep.
So I watched it, and I know Todd Tucker, so do you, and Mike Adams, and I wasn't here then. I was elsewhere, but I was blown away when he talked about how he wouldn't leave Mike Adams, in that, even though he was shot. So I'm still infuriated about it. So I decided, you know what, I'm just curious about all of this. So I sent an email to the governor's office, did a court request, and I don't know anything about clemency, and I don't know process, and I'm ignorant on that stuff. So anyway, I sent out a request, and the request, I was kind of hoping you'd bring this up today.
We did. Look, there it is, Tom. Thank you, Tom.
But I sent this court request, and it says, I would like to obtain any records and communications that occurred related to the granting clemency of Brandon Kreutzer. This would include, but is not limited to, emails, documents, letters, memorandums, phone calls, texts, and social media drafts or actual posts. Okay.
Oh, I'm sure they responded.
So I sent it on May 19th. And I think by statute they have a certain amount of time to respond to court requests and things like that. So that was on May 19th. So on May 29th, 10 days later, I sent another one. I sent a court request to this email address on 5/19, 10 days ago, and I've not received a response. I believe this violates Colorado Revised statutes regarding the timeliness of response in completing my request. Please respond. So that same day, I got an email back from somebody, presumably with the governor's office, said, I'm so sorry I dropped the ball on this one. We are processing your request, and I'll get it to you by the end of the extension period, which is June 3rd.
That's
Extension
yesterday. That's
period.
2 days ago.
Fast,
Okay.
yeah.
So on June 3rd, I get a letter from them.
And all the documents.
Denying the request.
Oh, there you go.
Because via executive order and 2 references to statute, all clemency board proceedings and records, including clemency applications, related materials, shall be confidential and shall be available only to the governor and governor's staff. So they have no records in response to my request. So I looked at the executive order. It was something that the governor signed in 2019. He's got a clemency executive clemency advisory board
Sure he does.
that these things go to, and I guess they vote. And that attorney actually called me and said, "Can we limit the scope of this?" I said, "Well, I want to know what the governor had, so to consider to make this decision."
Especially
And
since
that's
he
what I
got
want
to
to
know.
It was wrong information.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
And obviously, I can't get anything. But I think the executive order is just what you can sign executive orders to shield yourself from.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good
Cora?
question. This is something that maybe
don't
should
know.
be tested in court. You know.
Maybe so, because I'll tell you, and I sent one to. You can't find much information about the current advisory board now. I can't.
Even the members.
Even the members.
Maybe that's
by
secret, too.
statute, like a couple of executive directors of different departments, and then a mental health professional and others. But I can't find current names, and so I sent DOC because it's under them, I think. This clemency piece is, and I just sent them an email this morning actually and said, "Hey, who are the members by name of this advisory board?"
Yeah.
And I quite honestly, I think those should be public. I think meetings
Yes, of
should be
course they
public.
should.
I think the votes should be public because they have to vote on them,
Yeah.
and then they go forward. I mean, but I told the attorney, and she was very kind, very nice. She was. But I said, as a taxpayer citizen, I want to know what the governor reviewed, what he looked at
Who's been in his
to
ear?
make a decision.
Who's been in his ear?
That's all I want to know. That's what I'm after. And I get nothing.
Well, it's helpful
So
too here
I'm
because,
frustrated.
as you know, the governor's order included wildly incorrect language that said, "I'm granting your clemency because your sentence is disproportionate," which feels like an incomplete sentence because it doesn't say to what. But then he says, "Your co-defendant only received 7 years." And it's like, no, the co-defendant is still in prison for 45 years. Your guy received 5 because he was the trigger puller, right? 50 years and 45 years. And so when I pointed that out to the governor's office, and I said, where did the governor get the idea that this was 7 years? They emailed back, "Thanks for getting the heads up. We've corrected it." I'm like, no, this isn't a corrected thing. This
So
is
they took it out of their.
so
letter.
they just deleted
Right.
that sentence. And he was confronted by someone in the media later, and he just goes, "Well, that wasn't really the reason anyway. The reason I was doing it was really, exemplary prisoner in CrossFit, or something like
Yeah.
that." And I thought, come on, man.
So
Who
I
is
think it's
misleading this guy?
absolutely ridiculous that myself or anybody else, as a citizen of this state, as a taxpayer, that there's not more absolute 100% transparency on these things. And I'd like they should have public meetings. They should have people have the ability to go in and make an argument,
sure.
object to
Yeah.
things, and let's hear you vote. Let's see who votes for what. But
Yeah.
I can't get anything. And then you guys talked about it, but I was thinking about it at the same time in your press conference. But the one in Jefferson County where the truck driver killed 4 people at
yeah.
Denver West Parkway,
Yep.
I-70.
And by the
that
way,
started-
set fire to like 5 others,
Yeah.
killed 4, but
And
burned
had
up a
a-
bunch of others.
And I don't know, I obviously wasn't in court when they prosecuted that case, but I believe I heard was the recklessness of the guy that operated the truck. And so it just didn't happen between exit 259 and Denver West on I-70. He had
That's
some
right.
issues prior to that. And I'm stunned at that. I mean, that guy, he killed 4 people.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
4.
But that's another, to your point, that was the Kim Kardashian case. Remember that?
Yes.
Kim
Well, now that you
Kardashian
say
called
that,
it.
I didn't remember that, but killed 4 people. And let me go back to, did they contact Tucker?
No, not till after. Not
Now,
till after.
right in that executive order, items that this board, unfortunately, it doesn't say shall consider, it says may consider. victim impact or something to
Mhm.
that effect. So it just says may, really.
So
Isn't the victim
So they ask
most
us,
important
they
thing?
ask the DA's office to provide feedback and also to give them the victim's position, but they routinely reach out to the victims on their own because I don't think they like us being the ones driving that ship.
Right.
But on this one, we did send them back. We had a response that said, absolutely not, do not grant this guy clemency, all that stuff. Here's the position. And they went ahead and did it. And then I think he either called them outraged or they called him to say, oh, heads up, we're letting this guy get out. And it's hard to imagine something more offensive. But back to the Kim Kardashian one, that's another one where the governor's office, when they reduced his sentence from 110 years to 10, and we can argue about what the appropriate number is, but 10 ain't it. And he said,
because it won't serve 10 anyway, by the way.
no,
Yeah,
he won't. He'll serve about 3
A
and
third of
4
that.
months, something like that.
3 to 5.
Yeah, maybe. But then he said in his order, this sentence makes it more consistent with other similar cases. And I'm like, there aren't any similar cases. There are no similar cases with 4 dead people from somebody driving the vehicle this way. Like, we just don't get that. Could you get a single, a double? There are no cases like this. So again, I think it's a combination of one, I don't think he really knows what he's doing. I think it's the people surrounding him that are saying things like, we did the due diligence and here's the thing and this is how you should do it.
Well, the buck stops at the top, folks.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I also think that he's got a blind spot for it. He has a certain apathy for criminal justice and he lets these other unnamed, unaccountable people, including this clemency board, dictate what he does with his massive executive powers. But then that's it. There's no appeal. There's no way to dig in.
I am
look at the
very curious
transparency.
if, because of this executive order and the references to statute, I am very curious if really signing an executive order that kind of says, okay, Cora, forget Cora.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not an attorney.
Let's look this up.
But
We'll
you
look
can
up that
certainly have a
executive
copy. You
order.
can
Yeah,
have
yeah.
this.
I know some attorneys and I will ask them
But
to.
Sheriff, we were talking about this case. I was talking to George about it today because Kreutzer,
Look, 2 of you. Spelled
Kreutzer
wrong.
was interviewed on Channel 4
You can have
yesterday
that.
with Brian Moss, and he's, you know, I'm a changed person. I taught CrossFit, and George is saying, you know, okay,
Right.
So, does
Yeah.
that make it okay? We'll just let you out now. What kind of precedent does that set? You know, it's dangerous.
There are a bunch of other dudes in prison right now who are going to serve longer sentences who don't have either a father who's a former Denver detective that was a driver for one of our old governors, or some other juice that gets you in front of the governor's clemency board and him with some sort of weird recommendation, who are probably sitting there thinking right now, like, look, if I do yoga for inmates, is that it? Is that my ticket out of here? And it's like, no, when you try to kill a law enforcement officer,
Try to kill and ultimately shoot.
That's right.
a law
And
enforcement
no
officer.
one's saying he's got to serve every single second of his sentence, but this is crazy. We didn't even let him get to parole eligibility. We just decided, hell, we're just going to reduce it down. It doesn't make any
Wow.
sense to me.
Anyway, well, I know you got to get going because you got tea time. You got some important things to do.
And by that, you drink tea.
You're drinking tea.
Is that right?
I don't drink tea,
Oh,
actually.
oh, what the hell was I talking about?
Golf time.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, when you look back on your career, what do you want folks to remember about you, Sheriff?
Always fair, always honest. Period. That's it.
Do you agree, George?
For
Always
Dave,
fair.
I'll
Always
be
fair.
honest. Maybe the most, if not top 2 most credible law enforcement executives ever. And I've only been doing this 31 years. How long did you do this?
Over 40.
40, yeah.
I've only been doing this 31 years, and it's hard to say that about, everybody all the time. But, and there was a time, man, for me, no knock on the 23rd. I love the 23rd. I've lived here 30 years. But there was a golden age of law enforcement for me. That was back when we were in Jeffco at the same time. It just felt like things worked out pretty well. And maybe that was my own naivete because I was so far down the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the relationship that we had with the SO and Lakewood PD. And it just felt like things were working and the world had not been turned on its head. And you didn't see laws changing to make it easier for the bad guys to avoid accountability or get reduced accountability. And I don't know. It was a great time to be a young prosecutor working with you and those folks.
Worked with a lot of great people. I did. Wow.
What a great career.
Stunners.
What are you doing next?
Yeah,
What does
next on the
retirement
list?
look like,
Yeah.
man? I just can't see you not doing something. And it doesn't mean it has to be a job or
No.
for pay.
Okay, so I'm playing golf once in a while, and I do have other hobbies and things, but I'm very fortunate. I can, I do what I want when I want to do it, but there's going to be no work next. I'm done working, and I think I need to get into some volunteerism and things like that, and trying to. I want to do something that creates value. That I'm just going to do something just to do something. I want something that's going to have an impact.
Right.
You know, so I just have to find what that is. But
Would you serve on a clemency board if the governor asked you?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you're listening,
I've got a little law enforcement experience, which is one of the.
That's exactly
Apparently
right.
that excludes you from this board.
Yeah.
Apparently, no. But so if you could look back and talk to your 21-year-old self or anybody else who's getting into law enforcement now, what would you tell them? What would you?
It's a tough job. You know, it's a tough job, and I'll tell you, these I'll call them kids, but these kids that come in and want to do this for a living and for a career and stuff, I just admire them so much. It's amazing.
Is it harder now or easier?
Damn right, it's harder.
Is it because of the scrutiny? Is it because of the
It's
limitations on
scrutiny.
conduct,
It's politics.
yeah?
It's you know, it's all the training and the technology and all the expectations that we have. You know, it just didn't used to be that. You know, the job of being a police officer or deputy sheriff, you know, when you get out of the car, the job's the same. You know, but boy, you talk about all the training and all the different stuff they're expected to do and all the different expectations and criticisms and the social media and stuff. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It used to be not easy. It used to be a lot more simple. And I think it's the toughest job in America, being a law enforcement officer. It is. Of course, I'm biased, but these people that do it now, the men and women that do this now, they're absolutely amazing.
Can I ask you before we wrap that up along those lines? Tell me the impact you think that body cams have had: positive, negative, neutral, little of this, little of that.
Oh, I think generally positive. You know, I like body worn cameras. In fact, when they first started, I was all for it, because quite honestly, you know, if a lot of times it overwhelmingly it kind of really tells the real story, which is what needs to be told, not some. You know, I had a case in Arapahoe County one time where a traffic officer, a female traffic officer, was wearing a body worn camera. And I got a call from email from this woman about the conduct of this, and we just started body worn cameras. And I remember this email. I'm like, if you believe what this woman said, oh my gosh, we didn't do well. Yeah. But I watched the body worn camera, and I actually emailed this woman back that was complaining, and I said, listen, if you'd like to come in and talk about this, please do, because I watched what I saw was a very professional deputy sheriff, and in essence, you're a liar. And quite honestly, we enforce traffic laws in this county, and if you don't like it, please move.
Oh. And did she come in and talk with you?
I told her we had on body worn camera.
Pardoned her.
Well, I'll tell you what, I bit back hard. I did. It was absolutely ridiculous. So I remember that, you know, and yeah, I mean they're tough at times, but on the other hand, overall, absolutely go for it.
That's pretty hard to dispute.
Yeah.
Right? So
I just saw in that one. I'll never forget it. That deputy was so professional. It was unbelievable. And I lit into this woman, and I invited her to move out of the county.
Did she? Do we know?
No idea.
I like that. I like that approach. That would obviously be a negative news story on 9 News at this point.
And I went, and I was coming from the sheriff.
Nice.
And so anyway.
Sheriff, any final words you'd like to say?
No, I just appreciate the invite to come down.
Oh, are you kidding?
It's been
great.
Tom, you and I have always done well, and I've known this dude forever. And
before I had Anderson Cooper's here,
I just keep supporting the law enforcement officer out there and keep up the good fight. I want bad guys in jail. I want them in prison. Amen. That's what I want.
It's becoming a little bit steeper of a challenge to do that every legislative year, but I agree, man. Yeah. And if there's anything we can ever do for you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. And from a media perspective, two of the best people in the business are sitting right here at this table. Thank you.
Is it Tom and Dave?
Tom and Dave.
Oh, okay. I thought so. I figured. I was like,
you can leave the room now, George.
George isn't bad either.
I'll be edited out of this in the end.
No. Thank you so much. Great to track you down. And thank you for 40 years
thanks
plus
for coming in.
Thank you. Service.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Stay in touch.
Yes.
Need something, let me know.
Yeah, of course.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Okay. Tom, thank you.